Yeah, you have only one pronoun, and it's Jewish.
I think it's Jew. Jew seem upset.
That's pretty funny, actually. When your bio that your pronouns are she/Jew. That's funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
All right. Welcome to Everyone's Doing Better Than Me, the podcast where we have on our, in this case, far more successful friends, and we confront them about how their success makes us feel small and unseen. I'm here. My name is Eve Ellenbogen. I'm here with my co-host,
Katharyn Henson.
And our guest, our guest, Phil Wang.
Hi. That surprised me. Hi. That's how I normally speak.
It was like somebody calls you for the first time after you've met on Hinge, and then you go, hi.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And Phil Wang, who, usually I go into a quick summary of like what the guest has done, but with you, it's like kind of embarrassing straight up.
It's a scroll. It's a scroll that you have to unravel.
Comedian, actor, writer, podcaster.
Podcast is the one that I'm most proud of. That's the that's the one I put most work into getting there.
Yeah, totally. I know you were saying the other day, I really hope I get this podcast. What else? I'm trying to think about, do you do sketch comedy?
Yes, I have done. Yes.
So you're an improviser? Although that's something you don't want attached to your name.
I'm not an improviser. I've taken a couple of courses. Sure, who hasn't?
Right.
Show me someone who hasn't, and I'll show you a liar.
I've taken one. Yeah, It's really bad. I dropped out. Thank you for being here, Phil.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to talk to you both.
Yes, hello, Phil. I'm silent because I'm already like seething with jealousy. Like everything you've done, I've done half of none of those.
Well, I don't think it's even the accomplishments. I think it's when you talk to Phil and you're like, this guy's really funny. Like that's what's hard about him. Yeah.
Right. So it would have been much more comforting if I was just really boring.
Yeah.
I think I am quite boring. That's the thing. I think in person I'm really dull.
Well, we hung out the other day, and you're not. I really hate to say it, but you were. It was very fun. I had a great time. You know.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
She's still glowing.
All right, that's my ring light. Thank you. But we went to the museum. Went to the Metro.
I bought her that though. So it is
Okay. All right. You bought me dinner. Okay. Let's not
Are
get
you
ahead.
God? Are you God?
Yeah. Papa Phil, can you hear me? I need a ring light. All right. Yeah, we went to the Metropolitan Museum the other day, and we were walking around. And Phil's visit. Yes, I totally am. And Phil's visiting New York, and I have to say, he thought of me. I mean, he probably thought of a million other people, and I was here, but he did think of me. And we hung out, went to the museum, and I'm like, wow, this is old. Oh, that's crazy. And Phil's like, have you seen this sculpture's eyes? And he's like taking fun photographs, and then like we walk past one, and he's like this like little miniature soldier who's standing there with like his hand across his chest, and Phil's like, oh yeah, this guy looks like he's doing an open mic. And I'm like, no, how can you be so funny just like
so
walking
you're
around?
even like a fun tourist. Fuck you.
It's a mental illness. Don't don't try and paint this as anything positive. It's a mental illness not to be able to take things in earnestly and just and just experience life. To always be looking for a gag is a kind of mental illness.
It's true.
But but I think, but that little statue, it was just like a little Egyptian statue, and he's holding a scythe, but it looks so much like he's holding a mic.
Yes.
And it was just very funny to overlay like bits of ancient Egyptian stand-up material to this guy.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It was so funny.
Just funny. Like, that was an opportunity I couldn't let pass.
And I'm glad you didn't, because I mean, literally when that happened, I thought, God, he's really funny. Like, that's what I thought. Like, I was like, I don't know if I'm this funny. Like. Yeah,
of course. I mean, that was.
No, Phil.
It wasn't that good.
It was good. It was good. The way you see the world is beautiful. All right. Let's go for it. Katharyn, you look annoyed about stuff as usual.
Because I'm not that funny. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, I'm not even being funny right now. And so it's like after this, I might even buy a journal and journal for the first time that Eve has been telling me to do, because that's how like aggressive. This is desperately.
It's making you upset.
What's your question? By
the way, I always try to get Katharyn to journal on this podcast, Phil. That's the context of it.
I think it's a good idea.
No.
I think I should do that. We should all do that. Just to organize your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
in ways.
Because then your journal is going to be filled with hilarity, and then it will be published after your death. Meanwhile, mine is going to be misspellings, words. Like before we even got started this podcast, I was saying optician. I can't even say it. I don't even.
Optician. You're saying
shut
optician.
Up. I know I was saying.
Why would my writing only be published after my death? What are you planning?
Because you
What's
already
happening?
have a book out right now. This is like
right.
the lost pages of Phil Wang
That's
or
true.
whatever. You know,
it's not out yet.
everybody's.
It's not out yet, but it will be.
Oh,
this
excuse me.
This is the
Okay.
thing. Is like anyway, whatever. It's so annoying when somebody's just so. This is and you're nice too. Like I said, oh yeah, you should journal, and he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, I'm gonna focus us. Okay, so Katharyn, and your energy is like up here today. I really like it. Has anyone hurt you recently?
Recently, I mean, in the last 5 minutes, but I'll go deeper than that. I'm living in London. I don't know if you know that, Phil, but I am, and clearly, if you can tell by the sound of my voice.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Phil's in New
that's
York,
my
just for the record.
first welcome.
Yeah, we've done a swap.
Yeah.
Yes, we've done a swap. So this was my first time experiencing, and I'm going to say this out of disrespect in this way, soccer in the UK. I'm going to call it soccer because it ruined just weeks worth of gigs for me. Gigs that, I painstakingly planned out that, have already been ruined once by coronavirus. But now the second new global pandemic, soccer is like in my midst. And I like in New York the two can exist, sport and comedy,
Right, yeah.
but here they shall never meet. And
wait, can I just point out quickly, Phil is already on the defensive. Look at his face. He's been so like kind of like supportive, and now he's
player.
like, oh, you're bringing up, oh, you don't like football. Oh, really?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing that I always mean to do, and I always forget to do, is before a big tournament starts, like the World Cup or the Euros, to make note of where all the big matches are and refuse to take gigs on that day. Because the worst thing that can happen is that England do well. That's not bad. But then you've got a gig on a semi-final or, God forbid, the final. And you go, why did I do this?
Yes.
Because no one's going to turn up, and the people who do turn up are going to be fucking weirdos.
Yeah, well, my kind of weirdos, though, because I did it last night during the final. And
No way you had a gig last night.
Yeah. No, I took one last minute. Like, you probably know, like, Top Secret here, right? They called me, and I was like, absolutely, I will be right there. Like, I'll be there 2 hours early. I hate the soccer. Yeah. But it was the lightest I've ever seen it, right? Obviously. So it's like you have, like, I don't know, there were maybe, like, 12 people in the room, which is, like, insane because that room's normally packed. But I was like, you are my people. But the thing that was the scariest about the whole thing was, like, I did a gig earlier that day as well because in New York City, which you probably have done comedy there, but when you're coming up there, you're often going up to 4 people, and you're like, but they're breathing. So, like that.
Oh, it sounds brutal here. It sounds absolutely brutal. I feel so lucky that I didn't have to come up in the States. It just seems so
By the way, Phil's passed at the cellar. I just want to throw that out there.
Yes. Oh, you told me that 2 days ago. You thought I forgot? Like, you thought I forgot? Like, you thought I hadn't journaled about it or something? Secretly journaling, not telling you.
I thought you hadn't started your journal yet.
I haven't. I did start a gratitude list, and that is a list, though. But it is in a book, so it could be mistaken as a journal entry, but it is, in fact, a list. Just to make that clear, I am a Capricorn. What are you, Phil, by the way?
I'm an Aquarius.
Oh, I love Aquarians. I do. You guys are just so fucking weird. It's great. But
are you an astrology person?
I consider it. I consider it.
She's every episode, every single one, because I just edited one last night. She's like, I'm a Capricorn. Like, it's so, and it always comes out as a squawk for some reason. Like, I don't know why.
It's going to be on my tombstone. Like, here lies a Capricorn goddess. But yeah, I was at the gig. But the thing, so I did a gig at 6:00, and like when I was leaving, somebody was like, "Be safe out there." And like when I was arriving, there were like men with sticks, and they were just banging on buildings and cars and trash cans. But I was like, "What do you mean, be safe out there?" I was like, "It's just a game. It hasn't even started." And they're like, "It's not just a game." And like when I was at Top Secret, like I went up and I was sort of hanging out, and they were like, it's about over. You might want to get going, because of the streets and the and I'm like, are you sick? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, this is starting to feel like The Purge. Like, and
Yeah, it looks like that from the videos I've seen. I was like, God, I'm actually pretty lucky to be in New York right now, because I went to watch the final last night in Brooklyn yesterday.
Didn't call me.
And
just saying. Yeah.
I told you.
Oh, you did, yeah. I just thought I would make it about me. Anyway.
Keep it for the therapy session, okay?
I went, and it was weird. It got really busy. I got there like 2 hours before when there was no one there. I didn't need to get there that early. But in London, people people were queuing for the pub at like
Dawn.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
Like it was. So I was like, oh, I better get there quick. And I went there 2 hours before the match started. The game wasn't even on. They're still playing music. There was no one there.
Where were you?
And so I just had to drink a lemonade.
Which pub were you in?
Brooklyn Public House.
Where?
Do you know Brooklyn Public House in Fort Greene?
No. I think
okay.
Once upon a time.
It's like a Irishy kind of pub.
Okay.
Britishish. To Americans, British pub. And what was nuts was people were really like going for it and stuff. But then the match finished and everyone just got up and went home.
Yeah.
One guy was crying. One English guy was crying outside. But that was it. In London, there wouldn't be a pub left right now. We'd be talking about the ex-pub.
Yeah.
The ex-Brooklyn Public House, because it was burnt down.
Yeah. Well, I was like standing there because when everybody's going like, you better watch out. I was like, there's not been a day in America with all of the guns that I felt less safe than I did waiting for the end of this soccer game. Like,
totally.
And I could hear the screams. Like when it was, if someone was belting like a whale in Notting Hill, belting, like you could hear it when it ended. And then it was just like oddly silent. Because it was disappointing, right? Italy won, and I wasn't rooting for Italy, even though I was like angry at England for ruining my comedy shows. But I have a personal vendetta against like
I was gonna say,
two Italians. Yeah. So as a whole, I'm not into the country at the moment.
Right.
So
that's how Katharyn
it's not
works.
fair. It's not fair, but it is where I'm at as a person. I'm not a bigger person right now.
Because Phil, if you upset Katharyn, she's gonna start hating Malaysia and England because you're both.
Yeah.
So just...
he looks like he cares a lot if that happened.
I don't mind having that on my conscience.
Right. Yeah.
Just another cross for you to bear along with all your accomplishments. So,
well, Phil. Okay, so then what about you? Who's hurt you recently?
Hurt. Okay, this is
Wow. Imagine being like, no one. I don't know, nothing. The world feels
like
good.
going through a
I'm sure
Rolodex.
there's something. Maybe I've just blocked it out. I mean, so I'm here in. I'll tell you who hurt me. Was no.
No, they were fine. They actually came around in the end.
No, they were fine actually. They were fine. Yeah. Let me.
They apologized.
This is a really tough one. I'm finding it really hard to think of things that happened to me. I can never remember what's happened to me.
Nothing pissed you off. You don't get upset. You were hungover the other day. That you had a little hangover, right? What about your deadline? You writing an article, or we can't talk about that.
No, I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it. I sent that in.
Oh, it's done.
I tell you who hurt me, even though not that much. I went to play chess in Washington Square Park.
Oh, good.
Because I'm writing this piece about being addicted to online chess, and so I went to Washington Square Park because they're famous for the chess hustlers, and I thought that'd be a nice thing to add in the article.
Did you know
and
that
so I went down
before I told you, or you knew like?
No, I knew that because like I watch chess YouTube, and there's a whole genre on chess YouTube of people going to Washington Square Park.
That's how you come, yeah.
And so I thought I'd do it too. And the guy, when I sat down, the first guy I went up to, I was like, I felt so shy. I felt like a little kid. I went up to the first guy. I was like, "Are you playing? Do you want to play?" And he just goes, "I'm on a break." like he's annoyed that I've even asked for a game of chess.
So funny.
I was like, "Isn't that why you're here?"
Yeah.
But he's just like leaning, looking around, like, "I'm on a break." Like he's a construction worker, like he's digging a ditch. Like what he does is really hard. He just sits in the park and plays chess. But
all right, comedian. Okay.
Yeah, I mean he has harder hours than I do. And then I was like, well, who's free? And he pointed at another guy, and I went over, and this guy was very cheery and stuff. And I said, and he was like, "Do you play?" I was like, "Yeah." And so I sat down, and he explains his terms. So all the chess hustlers in Washington Square Park have terms.
Wow.
And he goes, everyone's got their terms. My terms are, if you lose, you give me $5. If you win, it's free. So it's not a great deal.
No, it's not a great deal.
The best I can do is break even.
Right. Which you won't, because he's sitting there hustling people for money. Like, do you know what I mean? That's his job.
I mean, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good chess players.
Yeah. And what's the time?
So
how much time did he give you? Was it on the clock?
5 minutes. 5-minute blitz game, which is
test.
I'm not very good at. So it's fast.
Right.
And we start playing, and he starts with a move that is not a good opening.
Right, because he's hustling you.
Well, it was like, this is how much better than I am than you. I'm going to start badly.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
Right.
So a slap in the face.
He's like tying a hand behind his back or something.
Yeah. And I mean, I know there's a lot of famine and war and injustice in the world, but that hurt me. That's the last person who hurt me. With that arrogant opening.
Yeah.
He hurt me. And I almost beat him because I missed an unguarded rook. And if I got it, I would have won. But I missed it, and then eventually he won on time.
Wow.
So he hurt me.
Wow.
I think his name was Simran.
Okay, well.
In Washington Square Park, the chess hustler. He's the last person who hurt me.
And if you're
Name
listening,
and shame.
Go out to the park, ask around, and avenge Phil. Right? Like, people...
Don't use the word avenge.
Well,
because
you
people
should be clear about what you mean by
Just
avenge.
beat him.
By
Beat
avenge,
him.
it just means play. Yeah, beat him at chess.
Yeah.
Beat him at don't beat him to an inch of his life.
Yeah, don't beat him to a pulp. Just beat him with chess, the game.
I told you, Phil, the other day, because you were playing chess. Like, when I kept trying to go to the bathroom, and there was like a ridiculous line. We were having dinner the other night, and I came back and Phil was playing chess on his phone. And then I'm not good at chess, but I like that I can... It's like when you have someone in your life who's like very successful, you can claim them as though it's you. Do you know what I mean? So my brother is a professional chess teacher, and when he was in school, my dad would get a call every day being like, Mike isn't here. And then he'd be like, but he left for school. Like, where is he? And he would walk from our house to the train station, which is like half an hour in like the suburbs, which is like kind of nobody walks in the suburbs to the train. He would go into the city, and he'd go down to Washington Square Park, and he would hustle people.
This your brother would do?
Yeah. And when he was like 13, he would hustle people, and he'd go, oh, I don't know, I've played a few games. And then he would do that, and he would win. And I one time went through all of his stuff, obviously, because I was me. And I went through all of his stuff, and he had so much money from hustling people in Washington Square Park. He also did that with billiards and stuff like that. But anyway,
oh wow,
maybe you and my brother could play chess. My nephew recently claimed to my dad that he beat my brother. My nephew's 11. Mm-hmm. And my dad was like, really? Because my dad hasn't beat my brother in literally 40, like maybe 35, 40 years. And my dad was like so upset. And then he found out that my brother played without a queen for, it's like what you're saying with Simran. And he probably did. It was like probably kind of without a queen and did a bad opening because he's very good. Anyway, what I'm saying is I could beat you in chess through my brother.
Wow.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Is what you're trying to say is my brother's going to beat you up?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
And you did for no reason, just because he can, just because you said like, I like to fight. I'm like, well, my brother will kick your fucking ass. That's like what I just.
Is that? I feel like is that your new weapon of choice? Your brother?
Oh, I'll use whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we're on good terms now. For a long time we weren't, but I still dropped his name. So yeah,
that does lead me to ask you, since we're on the topic of you being avenged in some way, did anybody hurt you?
Yes. So okay, yes, my cousin loaned me her car, which is very nice of her, and she went away. And yesterday, I went to go see my family in Westchester, and then she was flying into LaGuardia Airport, and I said I'd pick her up, and we'd go out for dinner. So I'm going to LaGuardia, and
nightmare.
Yeah, LaGuardia is not as bad as JFK from where my family is. But, it was only half an hour. But, half an hour is...
It's the airport.
Yeah, if people aren't so fucking dumb. It's so hard because I, was feeling so, zen. I was like, God, I had such a great time with my family. I'm so grateful that we all get along now. I'm so grateful for this and that, And my cousin and I had driven cross-country during COVID. In this car. It's like a Subaru SUV, so it's like a very fun ride. I feel very good in it. So I'm driving to the airport feeling grateful in my nice car that I can't afford, because I can't afford any car. And I'm in the left lane which Phil here is like the fast lane. And I mean, I know you know, but then there's a fucking guy in like a Honda, and no, I'm shitting on him because I was in a Subaru, but like I used to have a Honda the one time I owned a car, and he's just a bad driver. He's in the left lane. He's going really slowly. Everybody's going around him. I'm on the whatever highway, the cross county, and everybody is just, you really have to like just go. And this guy is like, like just, and I was like, motherfucker. And you're like, I'm not gonna let this get to me. I'm not gonna. This is just a guy. It's just a guy.
I've got my happy face on today.
Yeah, and you know what? He'll move. Just be patient. Just be patient. And not only is he in the left lane, he's like wavering back and forth in the lane. Like, just it's like it's bad. And then I'm like, and then people are flying past me on the right, and I can't get in because there's so many cars. Whatever. And I start to get really irate, and and meanwhile I'm like singing a Bo Burnham song from his new special, and it's this song that makes me feel like really kind of like chill and whatever, but I'm like, it's on repeat. I'm trying to be chill. This guy's going really slow. I can see that
starting to cry.
I mean, I'm starting to like go to dark places, and I can see that there's children in the car, so I'm like trying to be not a murderer, you know what I mean? Like, anyway, so
otherwise, you would have just run it off the road.
Yeah, if there weren't
like
kids,
Mad Max.
I would have had my brother beat him up. So, so anyway, finally, as we're going, we get toward I flash him. I'm like, and I'm doing the thing in my car.
You flash him?
Yeah, I flashed. Not.
How's that going to help?
No, so when you flash him with your lights, you like.
No, we.
Yeah.
Not like you didn't show him your breasts.
No, I didn't show him my tits.
I was like, hey.
She did that
maybe
later.
this will speed you up.
I wanted him to get my children. It's like, well, then get out of here. No. I gave him the lights, the blinkers, right? Which is just like, my high beams. I'm like, which is code for move over. Doesn't see them. I did something I've like never done. I beeped at him. That's how nobody does that.
She beeped at him.
I think I've beeped twice in my life. I think I've hit the horn maybe 1 to 2 times.
Right.
But all this is just to say, yes, it's a very rare occurrence, especially if you're a relatively respectful person who doesn't just try and look for conflict wherever they can.
And I like to think
it's a rare thing to do.
I like to think that's me. I like to think that. Finally, I was able to get in the middle lane, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I hope he's looking. And you can see me like waving angrily and frantically. And I go to pass him on the right, very shameful. And I look like, you motherfucker. And he clearly has 3 very severely handicapped children in the car, like very severely. And I was like, oh, obviously. Like, it couldn't just be that the guy was like a shitty driver and I could be angry. It's like, I had to get the guy who's like the saint. You know what I mean? Like the guy, and and this is actually, he's volunteering. It's his free time. And, he works at the church, but he's never molested anybody. And, he's a really good man. And I'm like, you motherfucker. I mean, like, imagine if I had caused an accident. I mean, what the news, like what they'd say, just like, I don't know, some kind of like, murderer.
New York Jew kills disabled children.
Yeah, bigoted Jew, because then they would be a hate crime. You know what I mean? So
Palestine would get involved.
I know. Yeah, they probably were Palestinian, just because that's the way that it was all unfolding.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, I just started laughing because I was like, you're mentally ill, like me. I was like, you should not be able to get this upset. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but you're saying this guy hurt you.
Yeah, well, he hurt me because he showed me who I really am. You know what I mean? Like, he held
nobody likes to see.
No, and he looked so like he didn't. I don't even think he noticed me. I think he was so enmeshed in his.
Lucky you.
I think he was just busy being a good guy. Doing whatever he was doing. Yeah, that really hurt me.
Maybe he's a pedophile. Tell yourself that.
I thought that made me feel better.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I felt better about it. I'm like, oh well.
Cling to a lie.
Trying to interrupt his flow.
It's the American way.
Yeah. What's important is that you feel better about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's always Eve's feelings.
Well, I feel better now. Actually, now that I've gotten that off my chest.
Yeah.
All right.
To be fragile and white. I know it well.
Somebody's going slow in my lane. It was just like so upsetting to me. I should be able to go fast. And then this guy with his like children with needs, is just, I don't want to risk their lives. And I'm like, you fucking pussy. Cunt.
Get out of my way.
Yeah,
I've got somewhere to be.
Yeah. Phil, is this, you feel like none of this surprises you about me, right? Like you feel like, because we've hung out a few times. You know roughly who I am, right?
I don't, but yeah. But, and it does surprise me because I know you're not an unreasonable person.
It does surprise you or doesn't surprise you?
It does surprise me that you would get so angry. Right. But it can't turn us into the... It's just funny to think, from time to time I've been driving around the road and someone will go, and I just think...
And it was Eve.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but you're right.
And now to think that could have been you. And now I can see it. I can totally see it. I can put you in that car and I'm looking out my car window and there's just a lady going, you fucking get out of the fucking... And that makes sense now, actually.
And her bun is wobbling.
Totally my bun, my little hair. But Phil, I've told my mother died when I was a child, so I think I'm allowed to... to just be a nightmare sometimes, you know what I mean? Like even if it's not related, it's like, well, what's my free card,
yeah,
good. Okay,
the Holocaust as well.
Well, yes,
that'd be a real trump card, I guess.
Trump.
Yeah.
If you were like shouting at me from your car and I just rolled down the window and said, hey, come on lady, what's your problem? You go, my mother died
30
and I'd have to
years
go,
ago.
Okay, sorry, and I just roll my window up. So I think it does buy you some credit.
Thank you. Yeah, like imagine if we got into an accident and you were like, why? What the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, well, when I was 7, actually it started when I was 5. And I start. Well, first we thought it was maybe muscle spasm. Just start going into a thing. It feels like. I'll pay for the damage. I don't care. I just do not want to talk to you. I should do that, I think. I think that, like, if I ever end up in a situation where I'm, like, really in the wrong, I'll be like, well, I don't know. What was your... So, do you remember winter of 1992? It was, like, a really hard year. Well, anyway.
I wonder if I can use that. I can be like, my best friend, pretty much, right? Her mother died, so that's why I can't pay for my groceries at the grocery store. I cannot handle it. Wrap my head around it today.
And they're like, "What are you like supporting her? Like, is she?" Then you're like, "No, it was 30 years ago, but she really."
Yeah. And I didn't even know her at the time, but But I feel like I was there.
Yeah, exactly. And she's really dealt with it, but I haven't. All right. So speaking of things that hurt me, Phil, you're here. No, I'm kidding. You know what? It's like, the thing is with you.
She's not.
The thing with you is that, so you and I, just some context, we met in Australia.
At the Melbourne Comedy Festival, 2018?
Not 2020.
2017?
2018?
Something.
18,
18.
I feel.
And it was love at first sight. I mean, you told me, you were like, when I saw that spotlight hit your hair. No, you didn't say those things. We met before the festival. We met in Sydney at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And it was hard because I did not have a great run of... I know that you've said nice things. You're like, oh, you're funny.
Yeah, you say you didn't do well in those gigs. I thought you did really well. I thought you were really funny.
Oh, thank you, Phil. Oh my God. See, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
She's, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're just being hard on yourself. But yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
And they weren't easy gigs.
They're not easy gigs, but I love the Comedy Store, and it was always like, I wanted to go there and like destroy. And you were on, and Aaron Chen was on. And the two of you were just killer. And I was like, I don't like being not the killer. Do you know what I mean? Like, it made me...
I honestly don't remember it. I don't remember doing that well.
You did really well.
I honestly remember just being fine.
You did,
like, it was fine.
You did really well. Yeah. You did really
For the record, just to say, I've heard this story.
Have you?
More times than one hand. Yeah, we've talked about this when you brought up... Phil. Phil.
Oh, right.
Before, so
we tried to arrange to have you on the podcast in the past. You were busy writing your fucking book or something. Some kind of, I'm busy. I got to write my book. And so we talked about you in the past. That's true. And I'm sure every time I said
she's not funny enough.
I said it'll always annoy me that he saw me not be in
funny
my
enough.
best place on set. But anyway, thank you for saying I'm funny. So we met there. Then we became friends. I said something. I think you remembered something I said, which really I think cemented our friendship. Where
like I remembered one of your jokes. From your set.
It was something I said to you in conversation. Remember? You said something really nice to me in Melbourne. You said something like, "Oh, I thought you were really funny," or whatever. You said something nice, and we were sitting at the like festival club or something, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I really like this." And I went, "Phil, do you have a condom?" And like, and then I forgot I'd said that. And then like a year later, we messaged, and you said something like, "Do you have a?" Or maybe in person you said it, like, "Do you have a condom?" And I was like, "Are you trying to fuck me? Because I will."
You were about to.
Why not? You know. But then it was like, "Oh no, absolutely not. I'm just making reference to a joke."
Well, it wasn't like you said that once. It became a running joke that Melbourne festival. That every time there was a silence between us, one of us would say, "Do you have a condom?" And it just became this running joke. But then I think, like in the 2-year gap or something since we spoke to each other last, you forgot.
Right, because I'm old now. It's true. I'm older than you.
And so I said, "Do you have a condom?" And you were like, "What?"
And I was like, "I will get one, Phil.
Excuse me?
I will find one." So
I thought it was very funny. I thought it was a funny running joke.
I think it's funny too.
Was this something that you did that you have done with other people? Do you have a condom joke, or did it start with?
No, I think it started with us. I mean, it's a thing I would say.
Great. I'm really happy to hear.
Yeah,
that.
I've never said that. As far as I know, there's nobody. No, there's nobody else. Wouldn't it be funny if like everybody else? I've always said that, and I just don't remember. I'm like, no, it's just you and me, babe. No, but like,
I mean, I thought I was special when you said that to me, but whatever, that's okay. It can be you and Phil.
I think my vibe is always like anybody who says anything nice to me, I'm like, are you trying to fuck me? And like, it's really me trying to fuck everybody. So, but no, I've never had that running joke with people because they usually stop talking to me, and then we don't get to have a running thing, but you just kept coming back for more. So I'm beginning to think maybe you were into it. But I'm kidding. I always have to hit on everybody, Phil. So don't get freaked out. Okay. Don't me too me. Yeah, please, Phil. So, okay. So we became friends, and then, we hung out in Edinburgh when I was there, and you were there, and whatever. And so I've gotten to know you like in little patches over the years, and then we hung out. You're in New York now, went to the museum. We had a very fun night the other night. And this kind of brings us to the beginning of why you're hurting me, right? With your success. Okay. We walked into a ramen noodle place that you found online that was fucking dope. That you, by the way, treated me to. Like, it was so generous. Like, I mean, but this isn't like, oh, I'll buy you a bowl of like, $10 noodles. It was like, we went so hard on this place, right? With drinks and...
It was good.
Oh, it was so good. And the second we walk in and Phil is wearing a mask, the chick goes, "Oh my God, are you Phil Wang?" And I was like, "Oh, I can't do this. Like I can't hang out with people who are being recognized." And it's like throwing me off to the side. I mean, and you were like, "Oh yes." And she's like, "I'm such a fan. Oh my God." And she like very uncool, but also like, if I were you, I would have gotten hard. You know what I mean? Like, like just like so idiot. Then we sit down. I mean, I will say she made us wait a minute, and I'm like, if you were that famous, I don't understand why we had to wait.
Well, what's funny was that we had to wait outside. So she's like, "Oh my God, are you Phil Wang? I saw your name on the register. I was wondering if it was you. Okay, can you wait outside for a bit? And because your table's not ready yet." So like like in effect, it made no difference to the quality of my life that she recognized.
Well, it definitely.
It's not like she went to the table and went, "You guys get the fuck out. Phil's here." That would have been good.
Yeah.
That would have been good. But we had to wait outside like the rest of the fucking scum.
But that's probably
so it didn't make any difference.
She probably thinks of it as like, oh, I'm really into like British TV, this and that. But soon, baby, once you really slam America, which I think you will very soon, we will get whatever table we want in any ramen restaurant we want on the Lower East Side. I mean,
only ramen.
No, only ramen.
Yeah, only ramen.
Only the Lower East Side. But then we sat down, and I'm in the booth facing out. You were facing toward me, and the waiter comes over, and he starts like, "Hey guys," and he looks at you, and he goes, "Oh, hey man, wow, good to see you." But like, and just like, and I was like, "This, what the fuck?" Like, just like, and I went.
Yeah, it surprised me too. I mean, like that was
right.
Katharyn, I don't get recognized in the States.
But in the States,
until at
in the
the
States,
ramen restaurant.
But that's
At all.
I don't
In
get
the
recognized.
States, yeah.
Period by my family. Like it's just. Do you know what I mean? Like.
My own father couldn't pick me out of a lineup.
There's a video of Katharyn surprising her mother in the supermarket in Vegas or California or something like that.
Or in California,
And
yeah.
she goes up to her mother. She was living in New York. Of course, I've seen this because I stalked Katharyn because I had to look for photos of her for the podcast. And she goes up to her mom, and it's this whole elaborate plan. You know, she flies in secretly. And she goes up to this woman, and she goes, "Hi, can I help you?" to her mom. And her mom just looks at her and goes, "No." And they have like a 5-second pause before her own mother knows who she is.
That happened.
It was.
Yeah.
It makes me.
Were you
forgot
wearing a
about that.
disguise of any
No!
kind?
No.
Were you...
I tell you the truth, it made me tear up. I thought this is not right, you know. But
Yeah. And I'm still
But
not
then
in
how
therapy.
did your mother react when she eventually realized it was
Oh,
you?
she hugged
shocked?
me,
She
but
went,
you know,
"Oh,
that's
Katharyn!"
She's like, "Cat," yeah. She
Yeah.
screamed, and then other people thought,
But that
like,
just, I think that just goes to show how good a surprise it was,
Oh,
and
yeah,
how
okay,
and how
twist it around.
skillfully you had done it. Like she expected it so little that even when you were there, she couldn't believe it. That's a good surprise.
But yeah, basically it was like she recognized you, the guy recognized you, you paid for dinner, and that's just like us hanging out. Then it's like, okay, so you're like you have like commercial success, like people recognize you. You're on TV all over the UK. You just finished writing a book. You just filmed a comedy special for a streaming service. Which one? We don't know. Do we know? We know, but we won't say. You're over here in the US filming something for TV that like I can't even talk about because it's like kind of a big deal. Like, I mean, it's just like, and this is okay. So this is what pisses me off the most about you.
It has to be said that all that is required for me not to be able to talk about something is for the production to say, "Can you not mention it?" It's not like
yeah, but
it's not like it's a Marvel movie
yeah.
and like once you hit a particular point you can't talk about stuff. All it has to be is one PR person say, "Can you not mention it?" It could be like, I could be on like one of the people on the next Shark Tank. You know, I could be one of the people who
impressive
gets told to leave from Dragon's Den, and they could be like, "You're not allowed to mention this," and I go, "I wasn't going to."
Yeah, but what you're in is not that. I mean, it's like you told me kind of who was around when you were filming, and I was like, "All right, I'm wet." You know what I mean? Like you just mentioned a few names. I'm like, "Okay, Phil, you got me." You know what I mean? This is what pisses me off the most about you is that you deserve all of your success. I can't be like,
I'm so sorry.
I can't be like, "Oh, Phil, this fucking lazy motherfucker." You went to Cambridge. Right? You grew up in Malaysia. You end up moving to London when you're 15, 16, right?
Not London, Bath in the UK. Yeah, when I was 16.
And then you like are amazing. You go to Cambridge. Early at Cambridge, you discover that you're really into comedy. You pursue it like a confident sociopath. And then you have success at it. Like you do really well. And then not only that, but then you just work. I mean, how many comedians do you know who at a young age figure out that they're into comedy and then they just go for it and they don't do a lot of drugs and they don't self-sabotage, they just pursue comedy and then they get good and then they don't fuck it up, they don't, you know, I don't know, you're just I guess what I'm saying is you're a good deserving person, Phil, and that is hard for me, you know.
Well, it's kind of you to say. But it must be noted, I came from a very supportive family.
Making it worse right now. Yeah.
You know, financially very stable.
That's terrible.
I never had any. I never had any setbacks. Really, I never had any setbacks in my life. For me, any success has always just been an exercise in not dropping the ball, and I think it's different to be set up in life in a way that your challenge is to not drop the ball is very different from someone who starts off life in a more difficult position and has to get the ball. I never had to get the ball. I just had to not drop it.
You got it when you went to university and started doing stand-up. I mean, that's when you have to get the ball.
Well, I actually started stand-up in my high school in Bath.
Okay.
But again, I went to like a posh school where the drama teacher decided to put on a comedy night,
right.
and I was able to go to Cambridge University because, you know, I was able to focus on my studies. I didn't have to take a second, you know, a job or anything. I could just focus on studies and get those grades, get to Cambridge, focus on the comedy, and, you know, so, you know, I've not really had to overcome very many challenges aside from its intrinsic challenge of doing comedy. I've never had to, So I think you'd have to keep that in mind with me.
That you don't deserve any of it, is what you're saying?
I deserve it on a technical level. I don't necessarily deserve it on a spiritual or cosmic level.
I mean, that's very nice.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I will take. No, because I mean, it's just not that I. No, you seem nice, and it seems like you worked hard, and I value hard work. It doesn't seem like you were handed anything.
No,
I'll say that.
I don't think so.
No, well, I think that has to be said in
Yeah.
comedy. No one's handed anything.
No.
You have to be funny.
Yeah.
It's one of the few things you can't.
I would argue that. I would argue that. Now, maybe I'm sitting in a different vantage point.
You're also thinking.
But I mean,
yeah, you go. Sorry, you go.
My argument is that to be funny is not enough. You can be very funny and not get there, and that is down in large part to luck and fortune, I think.
But I've seen people who are not funny get far based on other, whether it's maybe the way they look, and how far does that go?
Is it far? What does that mean, far?
I don't know. Like, I guess, or at least, I don't know. I'm still a baby in this, I guess. Like, I've been doing it 5 years, I think, right? Maybe 6, almost 6, something like that. So it's like, I understand, like, that's like nothing, I mean, like you said, you started in high school. I mean, you look like you're 22, but maybe you're
31.
But
I'm 31.
Yeah. But you're 31, so it's like
I'd say a young 30, a young looking 31.
It's true. Yeah.
But even those comics that you don't find funny, who you're like, they're not funny, but they're successful. They probably aren't funny to you and me, but they're funny to someone else, and they're funny to enough someone else's that, and
I guess
there's credit in that.
I hear that point, because there's not, everything isn't for everybody, right? Like, you know what I mean? So, but I'm talking more about like comics. I guess like I'm looking at, and I don't like necessarily being this person, because I like, if somebody can get something and they do it, I'm like, great, good for you, but like specifically, like I've noticed like there are female comics who, do really well because they might be really good looking, Well, and
I think it's moot because
I watch them.
Women aren't funny anyway. Do you know what I mean? So
I forget that point always. I'm always trying to break that barrier myself. Yeah. But I mean, and I'm not trying to knock them for that, because part of me is like, good for you. Like, good for you. You've, but I'm not trying to, I mean, it's hard to sort of argue this point, because I don't want to like name people or whatever, but it's like, I've definitely been on shows with people, or ladies who are like incredibly good looking, like by just basic standards, but like on stage maybe they're brand new. That's what I might mean to say. Maybe they're absolutely brand new, but they got an opportunity, which is great for them, but I'm like, it wasn't based on funny.
But also, you're talking about it at a certain level. I think it's like past a certain point, those people aren't going to get comedy specials. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're talking about probably...
Right. Which I wouldn't know anything about anyway, so maybe that's what... I'm kind of like...
I mean, I think you're just...
Yeah, it might be worth saying, Katharyn, what do you mean by doing well? Like, are they on TV all the time? Are they getting comedy specials? Are they hosting shows?
Or I guess like...
getting booked, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah,
getting booked for gigs.
Yeah. Getting booked for gigs that like, they sort of show up and now they're there. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, good for you. But also like, sometimes when you've been in a scene longer, kind of like grinding away, and then you're like, oh, we're doing the same thing, but you started comedy yesterday. And you're kind of like, that's okay. But it's hard, because it's like, I don't, it's sometimes hard, it's not always hard, but sometimes it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But I guess, it's a visual format as well. And, I think we all sort of can offer. We all have basically all hold separate pillars of appeal, right? You have your looks, your funniness, I don't know, your kindness, whatever. Now you can your pillar of looks can be very high, and that can get you over the level and get you booked on things, even if your pillar of funniness is low. If your pillar of funniness is very high and pillar of good looks is low, that can also get on things, because it also gets you above the level. If you're both, I mean, then you just you take over.
Yeah.
But if your pillar is all looks, that pillar comes down, and funny doesn't really come down. So I wouldn't take it to heart, and
I take everything to heart. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, but I love. Yeah,
I think success superficially gained is easily lost. So I wouldn't. It's
But you're kind of handsome yourself, so you know. Like.
But he's funny. I will tell you that he's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I'm Chinese, I've only got 60 more years of this. So you know, even my clock is running down.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, Phil. I mean, look, I noticed in Australia. I don't want to like shit on anyone, but I did notice. I was like, wow, being a certain kind of attractive does put you in some places, you know, for some.
And that's life, though, too, a bit.
And of
you
course,
know,
it's true for men too. I think for women, it's hard because it's like we're already like looks is so much a focus of our lives, and then you see these like you see women who are like stereotypically pretty, like getting into a certain place in comedy, and you're like, but you bombed. I saw you bomb today. I saw you bomb yesterday. Like all the, and it's just like
you're bombing right now, like as we speak.
And then you start to think, am I crazy? Do I not understand what's fun? You know, do I not know what bombing means? But then it's like, well, for me, I'm just like, I'm grateful not to be in that. Sometimes I'm like, I actually thought about writing a joke about this. I'm so happy not to be anyone's stereotype of what it is to be hot, because I know that if people are laughing, it's because I'm being funny. It's not because they're like, oh my God, look at her. She's like, you know, she has these looks, but she has a voice too. She's like speaking, you know, like nobody's patronizing me. Like, I think
she has tits and a mouth. Okay. I did want to go back to, I guess there's something, I mean, I don't know if that's something you have experienced or whatever, because it's like, I do understand that.
About the attractive thing? Like
about the attractive thing. Like, I fully get that, like, it plays into my own insecurities. Like, I've also thought about writing a bit, like, about something like this, and I'm not trying to run a bit by you right now or whatever, but it's sort of like the idea, I want to be the most beautiful woman in the world. Like, I want it to be, it's me, but I don't want anybody to look at me, you know? Like, and like, you know, but I want, and so I guess it's probably like, you know, I always had like really, like the girls I hung out with, they were the ones that were guys were always like, you know, what's her name, you know, or whatever. So I know it's like my own insecurity and like, and being, you know, funny and whatever. But sometimes I guess I just feel like if you're like looking for somebody on a roster, like I had an agent here. I ended up dropping them, but there's like this really beautiful, really nice girl on there. And I thought, well, if we're ever up for anything, she's getting it. And it doesn't matter if maybe might, you know, have another special thing or be funnier sometimes or whatever. But you know what I mean? I just like was like, I'm like, society means she gets it because she looks like a Baywatch model, you know? I mean, have you found that to be the case in like everything because you're clearly like kind of, you know, climbing your own ladder. I mean, has that ever, have you felt that way or have you found that to be true? I mean, or is this just something that's based in my own personal insecurities, which I'm like willing to look at, you know, and say maybe it is. But I guess it's just like I always thought entertainment was sort of like that. You know, the pretty girl gets it.
Right.
Or the equivalent, I guess, for Phil's lane.
Or the pretty boy, you know, or whatever. Like, yeah.
I mean, there was a period where there was a particular type of white English guy who seemed not to need to be that funny. And the stereotype goes, you know, the tight t-shirts, the tight trousers, the hair that's a bit up. And for a couple of years, that seemed to be the way. And I can even think of now, off the top of my head, like at least 2 guys who dressed that way and were not funny at all, and were, like you say, getting further than their talent merited. But that came to both of them. That just ended like that. Like a year, 2 years in, it just went because you can't. It's not sustainable. Right. And you can't keep going like that. And like since watching those guys, I don't really think about that sort of thing anymore. This you know, comedy is about consistency. It's not about being pretty now or cool now, because those things can go. That goes really quick. I mean, even people who win like the Edinburgh Comedy Award is no guarantee they'll be around in even 4 years.
That's true.
So it's about consistency, and it's about keeping your eye on the road, and not too much on the other cars.
Did you?
Although you do need to know if you're going to hit
well,
one.
And in Eve's case, she's always looking at the other cars because she wants to make sure there's disabled kids she can kill inside of them.
When I was using that metaphor, I was like, oh God, Eve's going to get angry just thinking about it. She's going to start shouting.
No. Now that I've gotten it out, I'm like, it turns me on because it's back talking about me again. I like that. But did you? Because I have a different version of what Katharyn's talking about. I don't really think so much about like the pretty one, or because I also find it kind of funny because I think Katharyn's really pretty, and I'm like, okay, Katharyn, like, yeah, oh, the hot one gets it, and you don't, because she like is hot. But whatever, fuck you, Katharyn.
But I feel like I feel like a little boy or something, you know, like, and I sound like an old man.
But I think so. But I do have,
but like a hot old man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I have my own version of that, and I'm just like,
this is a sexy, sultry old man.
Yeah.
An old guy in a miniskirt.
You, babe. But did you deal with that much aside from those two guys? Like, did you have a period of time where you were looking and comparing yourself? Because I'll do it. I mean, in the sense of like,
there are lots of times where I thought like if I lost a bit of weight, I'd be. And you know, I did lose some weight in my mid-20s.
Was that an insecurity for you? Was like weight stuff?
Yeah. It had been for a long time. And all it was is I stopped drinking fruit juice and smoothies.
Sugar?
I thought they were good for you.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, this is full of fruit. I thought it'd be really good for you. Can
you talk to my father?
After I stopped drinking them, I got my chin back and like it was crazy.
Talk to my diabetic father who's convinced that sweet and low is good. I'm like, Dad. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But also being a guy, I'm like, wow, you can just stop drinking juice and everything gets like toned. What a world, you know? Like,
well, I'm not.
Yeah. No, I know, but for women,
I'm not toned. I've just got a chin now. That's all.
Yeah.
And I felt, but then I guess what it does is it gives you confidence. If you're looking better, it gives you confidence, and that always plays well. No matter how you look, it's a confidence game, comedy. So. You know, maybe it helped. So
you feel like you haven't really struggled. You feel like because you must have. I mean, even the other day, like when we were speaking, and you were like, or we were out, and you were like, I gotta go write this article, and I was like, yeah, he does, or he's just like, I'm done with this fucking Jewish bitch. But like, you know what I mean? And
it could have been both. It could be both.
Enough is enough.
It could be both.
And then I dragged you to Grand Central to show you.
That was good. I'm really glad you did because that was really cool, and I wouldn't have seen it otherwise.
Yeah, well, you know the Whispering Arches, right, Katharyn? Outside the Oyster Bar, no?
No.
So it's like outside the Oyster Bar in Grand Central, you know, it has that kind of those like curved ceilings.
Oh, maybe.
And you go like diagonal from each other in different corners, and you whisper into one corner, and the sound travels over the ceiling, and then the other person can hear you whispering in the other corner.
I had no idea about this.
I don't know how I knew, but I've known for a long time, and every time anyone's in town who's never been here, I'm like, you got it.
Oh, that's really nice.
And I also think that Grand Central is like one of the most magical places in New York. It's like. You walk into that and you're like, what? This is like a train station? And you look up and there's all the... So Phil was like, I got to go write this article.
Like,
and I was like...
all the people and the whole... And
well, not anymore,
everything
man. You've
else
been there during COVID. It's like half empty. I took him to Magnolia Bakery in the basement. And then I was like, but I won't have anything. And then I was like, well, I will. You know, and then I like got a cup.
And then you started having a bit of mine as well.
Hey, you fucking traitor.
Oh, this sounds like our trip to Magnolia Bakery.
I got to go.
He
got the banana pudding, which was what I got that time with you, and I didn't get it, and I was like, I didn't tell Phil this, but like I've been religiously not eating carbs, and then Phil, when you were like, let's go for ramen and I'll pay, I was like, fuck it, and like the whole
carbs it is.
Oh my god, last week.
Oh, no, I wasn't aware of this.
No, because I'm an addict, you know, so I didn't want to share my darkness with you, but I last week was like a glorious. I mean, I woke up in the morning inside of a bowl of pasta. You know, just a how did I get here? But that was you helped me set that off. You know. But anyway, I guess I don't know how I got here. What is my point? I dragged you to Grand Central, whatever. But do you you had to go home and work on this article, and you were kind of tortured about it. Like not tortured, but you had that that nagging deadline sensation. Yeah. But do you not like? What are your like? What are your like demons, or not demons, but the things that you have to kind of push yourself? It's not just, oh, I keep going on the path and I don't drop the ball. There must be stuff for you that you're like, how do I get to this next level? You know, whatever it is, right? Do you not, or do you just feel like someone says, Phil, you should write a book, and then you wrote a book, and then you should do a special, so you did a special?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I've sort of conducted my career so far, is like, I just did gigs and got as good as I could, and then as the offers come in, I say yes to some, say no to others, and that kind of, and that train just kind of keeps going. But now I guess I'd like to do some stuff off my own volition and do some scripted stuff and all that sort of thing. That the stuff that takes a little more incentive, I've never actually done that much of.
Right.
Because again, I've been in this quite lucky position where, stand up. You just keep doing stand up, and you get these offers in, and you do them, and they supplement the whole thing, and you build up. Builds up a momentum, and you build up a schedule of work. So the stuff that would have required me to sort of just go, I'm going to live in a hut for a month, and I'm going to write this series. I've not really done that.
And other things that what are you going to say, Katharyn?
No, he's like, and when you're doing stand-up and the offers come in, I'm like, oh, what? Well,
I mean, they will. I mean, they will. It takes a few years.
Yeah. And I'm not like in a hurry, but it's funny.
Oh, you're not?
Well, I don't know what I am half the time. I don't know what I am.
You're
half
in a
the time.
hurry, dude. I know you're in a hurry, but that's only because you started smoking meth as a teenager and you've never been able to slow down since then.
Well, it's still coursing through my veins. Well, no, I guess but I tell people all the time, though, something that somebody told me, that you can never be, like, for example, in at a club too late, right? But you can get in too early, and so I tell myself that. So it's like, I guess, I'm in a hurry because, I think the last year and, coupled with my own childhood trauma of feeling like I'm losing everything no matter how tight I grip, I think in some ways I'm like, make up for lost time, or I'm also in this new place that I didn't expect to be. So I guess in that way, I don't know, I'm in a hurry. But,
London, but you were in a hurry before. We were going to do... So we became friends, Phil, when Katharyn and I met in Edinburgh, that time that you and I hung out in Edinburgh. So we met. I saw her show. So someone said, you'll like this person.
But you're both from New York.
Yeah. But she's from Reno. But I was living in Melbourne. She'd moved to New York for 15 years. And so somebody said, you'll really like Katharyn Henson. And I was like, no, don't tell me. I don't like, oh, she's a woman, you're a woman. I'm like, fuck this bitch. And then
she both have hair.
Yeah. Fantastic. You both have glorious hair. And she comes in like a tornado. And I was like, oh, I actually really like her. Like rats foiled.
Nice.
And then I saw her show, which was great. And then I was like, why don't you, she was like starting to do festivals. So I was like, why don't you come to Melbourne and we'll do a split show in the comedy festival. And then she did to Australia right as COVID was happening, and I left and was like, good luck to you, like the guy on Titanic when the Titanic is sinking and the band members all say goodbye, It's been an honor playing. I'm like, all right, Katharyn, like I hope you survive. And
you're Kate's sort of ex-boyfriend who's like trying to get
I'm Billy Zane.
You're Billy Zane when it's only women and children and you're trying to get
you have a little wig on. He like wraps a shawl. Please, she's the only thing I have in the world. Like I watched that movie recently. I met Billy Zane. Just saying, I met him twice. And actually, I really
did. He push past you to get into something?
Actually, now that I think of it, that's one of my, I was kind of like the chick at the ramen noodle place. Because the first time I met him at my cousin's wedding, because they were friends.
First time
I met him at my cousin's wedding.
Wow.
They were friends, in LA, and then that was when I was about 10 or 12. But then when I was in Canada on like a teen tour when I was like 14, I went...
A teen tour?
Yeah, I'm American.
What's a teen
and middle
tour?
Class. It's
I don't know what that is either.
It's like, instead of going to sleepaway camp, you go on like a traveling camp. So it's like a bus full of children, and they take you to like the coolest...
Nightmare.
It was like, it was 6 weeks. I got to go all over the U.S. And I was like... it was just, it was kind of amazing.
I'm just thinking about the staff
who
agreed to do that.
They had the greatest time. They would just go out and get drunk all over
that's
the country.
That's what you say.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It was
anyway.
It was
I won't
fun
argue
and
it.
horrible. It was great, But I was in Canada.
Were you shouting abuse out the bus at the other cars?
Yeah, hurry up! Just screaming at strangers.
I have to see the Grand Canyon.
I want to see Niagara Falls. Hurry up!
I actually did recently go to Niagara Falls during COVID. I'm sure that I don't think I got mad because there was no traffic because of COVID. But I was in Canada and I had what I thought was an asthma attack, but it was actually a panic attack. Lol.
Oh yeah.
And so they took me to the doctor, and Billy Zane happened to be there with his model girlfriend. And so his girlfriend's bleeding, and we're in this like tiny little medical center. And I went up to him and I was like, oh my God, hi. I met you at Neil's wedding. I'm Neil's cousin. And he's like, oh, nice to meet you. Excuse me, can we get a doctor? And I was like, so what are you doing in Canada? Just like so so lame. But anyway, I'm cooler now, I think.
Are you?
So you've met Billy Zane a couple of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, we're pretty tight, I think.
Now
Dear
who's jealous
diary.
of who?
How did I get here? You comparing me and Titanic. Oh yeah. So Katharyn stayed in Australia. But yes, when we were planning this show together, the split show in Australia, so we really didn't know each other very well. And I didn't really tell Katharyn this, but when we would talk on the phone, I liked her, but I was like, this chick is a bit nuts. Like, this chick is a little bit, like, because you were like, I don't know. I'm in New York. I'm doing everything. I will, like, you were just so intense. And I was just like, I was like, yeah. Like, and I wanted her to think that I was putting in equal amounts of effort on my end, which I was not doing, because nobody can match that energy. Like, nobody alive can match Katharyn's, like, intensity and like of pursuit. But I guess my point is, I don't believe
I'm
you.
just trying to find my dad through it all. You know, it's like, it's just a never-ending journey of like, Daddy. Like,
what's it like, Phil, to have two parents? You know?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. So count yourselves lucky. It's just too much. Actually, too much love.
Too much love. Just a bath.
Too much.
A bath of love. But you know, it's funny because it's like, I mean, you know. It's like self-deprecating. You're like, everything was handed to me. Not handed to me, but, you know, I haven't had to struggle. But I'm...
No, yeah, I wouldn't say everything was handed to me, but I never had all that much to overcome.
Yeah, and I'm like, everybody has their own struggle. And then I'm like listening to it, and I'm like, well, maybe that is part of why we're...
Yeah.
That's true. All right, well, I guess we figured it out, Katharyn. We're broken, so we'll just give up, I guess, because we'll never find them, so...
I'm ready. No, but so I mean, okay, so you're 31. You started in high school, so I mean, okay, you know, I don't know. It's inspiring, I guess. It's like I don't know. When I just think about I'm new. I didn't expect to move where I'm at, and I'm not meaning to make this about me, but I'm very good at doing that, so I might as well do what I do best. But I didn't expect to move here, so I am here, and I'm just sort of. I'm really missing New York. Yeah, I'm in London. I'm missing New York. I'm missing the way I know things to be. I do think this is a good choice, but it's different. There's a cultural sort of shock that I guess I'm going through now that it's kind of open here, you know, and so now I'm experiencing it.
How long have you been in London now?
September 2020.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't like
just
it wasn't
just in time for the winter lockdown.
Yeah, exactly, and it wasn't like I wasn't like I'm moving to London now in September 2020. It kind of like it's just sort of what happened. And
what's the culture shock?
I don't know. I do find I mean, and this is kind of weird to say, but I've sort of experienced a couple of instances, more than a couple, if I'm going to be honest, like a handful of instances recently where it feels like people that I like thought were kind of, I don't know that well, if I'm being honest, but like I felt like were my friends sort of, and this happened in New York, and maybe I try to like look at myself and think maybe it was I just not seeing it or whatever, but just sort of like they care more about what they could possibly glean from me or get from me or how I can help over like the actual friendship, you know, and I know that's like, and I feel like that makes me sound a certain way by even saying that, but it's just like I've been really hurt by it recently just because I'm new. I have no friends here. You know what I mean? I have no real, and so I'm trying to like establish those types of relationships almost before even like, not before, but like along with trying to like establish myself like in comedy, the thing I care a lot about, you know, and I don't know. And I just sort of feel like I'm dangling around. I'm just like dangling, you know, and anything that has felt like I moved forward, I then like kind of, you know, I did like drop this agent, you know, and like, and I don't know. And then I just don't feel grounded. Whereas in New York, as fucked up as it is there, I felt extremely grounded in that fucked upness and in that scene. And like, also we were almost, even though we're all trying to get ours, we all know that and we're all in it together. Whereas here, it just, there's like, there's a different way of people going about it that I have found like unusual or that I haven't experienced. And then I've taken really hard, and like I called Eve about like crying about the other day, you know, when and
I mean, you've only been there a few months, and it's been, you know, a pretty tumultuous few months, and it hasn't been an ideal few months to start anywhere. And I mean, I you know, the people I met at the start of comedy who I thought would be my friends and then weren't in the end. You know, it's a period of flux. You'll find you find your people later on, and especially if you're starting out on the open mic circuit, there's people on that circuit. They're not, a lot. Well, I mean, comedians in general aren't very reliable.
Well, it's like one of those things like, okay, so you're obviously doing really well. I think like things, the impression of how I'm doing here is like where it looks like I'm in some position to sort of usher other people into the same position I'm in. When in fact, like I know I'm just still trying to make ends meet like everybody else. Does that make sense? So it's like I'm not just like sitting here doing open mics. So I feel like some people who like want to be a regular somewhere, but I'm like, look, I've been here since September. Like, how do you think I can like make sure you like get in at a club that I'm just like, sort of in? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then like sort of the tone deaf, like I don't get it. Like I'm kind of like, how did you arrive at like thinking to ask
me?
You
just have to say I can't help you.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I've done.
That's a boundary. It's just boundaries.
And I guess I struggle with boundaries as well. So I don't know.
It's like I think you and I were messaging yesterday about this, about just like a situation, which I won't go into, but just where it's like, oh my God, what if this thing happens? And I guess it's like, I think that if you have like trauma, right, which is like such a general word, but if you have this thing from the past where you've felt like really out of control of your own life, you worry that other people's needs will like dominate your life. And like, I think the thing I really like love is just realizing that like I can just say no and be like, no, I can't help you. Like what Phil said, like I can't help you, or I can't meet up, or I don't have time. And trying to be nice about it. But it's like basically, I think when you feel like you're at the whim of other people, which it sounds like you do feel like people ask you these things or people, then it feels like really painful. But it's like, I don't know. I mean,
when it's just also been the kind of year where we've been so disconnected from other people that like part of me is like, I want to help people and be around people and like do what I can, but like
you want friends.
I don't know, like, and I want friends really, really bad.
I guess I'm just not enough for you. That's fine. Just
well, I mean, I don't actually see you, but I don't know. It's just like
I'm totally kidding. I don't need to be your only friend. Yeah.
But like seeing Phil's success, I guess it's like, was that ever something that you felt like you were dealing with, like as you're
you
like
were
sort of
kind of lonely in your pursuit? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, even now, it's like you're sort of. I mean, and what do you do to cope with that?
I think the loneliness is the hardest part of the job, and I don't think that goes away really. I mean, it doesn't matter how big the stage is. If you're going home and you're alone again. I film my special, and I go home. I'm alone. I go out on tour, and the show goes really well. People are like, yeah, and I'm like, thank you, you're great, whatever. And I just get in my car and go to a hotel, and I'm alone. The loneliness is kind of, it's a hazard of the job, really.
And do you feel like Sorry, do you feel like people use you too, or try to get stuff from you as well?
Not in any sort of underhanded kind of way. Sometimes people say, can you watch this? Can you say something nice about this? And if I have time and whatever, then I do my best. But I wouldn't say people are like snakish.
Yeah.
About it. But I think when you're starting out, it's more likely when you're starting out because everyone's just so desperate to gain a foothold somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And no one knows what the rules are.
Right.
Because there aren't really any rules, and so people are just grasping at all these threads and all these potential gatekeepers and opportunities. And also, like, when you're starting out, and like you say, Katharyn, you're going, who am I? I can't help you. Who am I? I'm in the same position you are, basically. I'm just trying to make my own way up. And it's funny, like, the people you thought were gatekeepers when you started out, a few years down the line, you look back and go, why did I think they were gatekeepers?
Yeah,
totally.
They can't really do anything.
No.
But at the time, you thought, if they run a gig or they run even like an independent online comedy review site with I get 10 hits a year, and you go, these people are gatekeepers, and a few years down the line, you're like embarrassed that you thought that, because it wasn't the case at all. But it takes a while for you to gain that perspective, to climb up the tree and see the forest. At the start, you don't know. You don't know who's who. You don't know who does what.
And I just want to connect, with people on a people level. Do you know what I mean? Like, stand-up's really important to me and all that, but like, I don't know. It'd be nice to have like some friends. Is there anything like you did? I guess as you were.
I'm sorry. You're so cute.
Shut up. Like, fuck
Phil,
you.
You gotta hang out with her when you get there.
No.
Really
I don't even want it like that. I don't
She's
even.
Very
well, that's
sad.
the other thing. I don't. Shut up. You're sad and lonely. You're sad and lonely.
I
tried to hook her up with a friend over there.
I know.
No, but
it's very like I love. I mean, it makes me like love you more. You're so vulnerable.
Oh,
do you know
shut
what I mean?
up.
Like,
I don't want to hear this. I don't need this. I don't need it. No, but no. I mean, because it's like I didn't expect to leave New York. I lived there 15 years. I felt very comfortable in that loneliness. Do you know what I mean? Whatever that. I was like, I've settled into my
different kind of loneliness.
Yeah, my loneliness here,
chaos,
and now I'm just. Yeah, and then I just feel like anytime I feel like I'm relating to somebody, then it just kind of comes out of left field where I'm like, I don't know, and it's sort of like it would just be nice to hang out where it's like there is no even if
ulterior motive,
even if at all,
but also
or people can navigate it differently. Yes. Like I'll put it this way: I've never asked anybody, and I know not everybody's me. I've never asked anyone to vouch for me, but if somebody was like, "Hey, I'll vouch for you," I'm like, "Thank you, that's super nice of you." I appreciate that.
But I've totally asked people to vouch for me, but only people who I knew were in a position where they could vouch for me.
Do you have any like things that you do, like for your like mental, emotional, whatever, to be so kind of
zen?
I don't know. I mean, I'm like hearing you. You do. We've used the word zen a lot, but I mean
today.
Not today, but in general, about people and like I don't know. You do seem grounded. Yeah, I don't want to speak for you and say you seem happy, but you don't seem like depressed. You don't seem like you're going to slit your wrists later. You seem to have your projects going. Yeah. What? Fine. Don't threaten him with a good time, I guess. I don't know.
Well, in line with this, how do you cope with those feelings of loneliness?
Yeah.
I try and reach out to people, talk to people, call someone on the phone. Which is hard to do, especially if you think like, oh, they don't want to hear from me. The last thing they want is to hear my voice. But you have to overcome that feeling, I suppose, and realize that other people are in need and desire of contact too, and connection. I try and meditate. I mean, nothing deep, but just on my app, just like a meditation app.
Every day.
I try and do that every day. Yeah, just 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah. Exercise has been really good. That's the hardest one.
I hate that. I know it's true. Yeah. I hate that it's true. Like, because I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And exercise helps a lot, which is frustrating.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Jinx.
I got a personal trainer recently, which is like...
Okay.
Again, again, very,
very white of you.
Do you send your limo to go pick them up or no? Yeah.
If the helicopter's in the shop.
Yeah.
But that's been very good, having that regular thing. And reading books, it's
getting out of your head.
My friend and podcast co-host Pierre Novelli, he once said, I feel the best when I eat little and read a lot. And I realize that this is the same for me. If I'm not overeating, if I'm eating just the right amount and reading a lot of books, you feel better about yourself.
It's like a different kind of consumption. It's like you're consuming the right things instead of just like, oh, I'm going to eat everything to try to feel better.
Yeah.
And do you feel, I mean, this is the thing too. I think, you're in a place where I think a lot of comedians would like die to be like, which of course for you, like you're very low key about it, but it's like you've just filmed a special, you've got your book coming out, you're on all these TV shows, you're genuinely funny, you're not just a pretty face. And it's like, but I think, I don't know, I guess it's like now there must be, or I would assume that there's this feeling of like, well, I have all these things. And like you said, you want to get to the next place, but it's like you have these things, but you're not now enlightened. You know what I mean? Like you've met so many different...
Well, it doesn't feel like... It takes someone like you to say, you've got all these things for me to go, oh yeah, I suppose I do have all these things. Right. But when I'm just walking around living my life, I don't think, I've got all these things. I'm just worrying about the thing that I have to do, the next thing I have to do, the next thing I have to do. And when I finish a big project, it's not a sense of elation, it's like a relief. It's just, it feels like I finished my exams. I was never happy about finishing my exams. Just a relief, like it's done and I passed. So I don't. Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't on its own give you happiness.
Does that bum you out? That you
a little bit, because I was always like, when I was a kid, I wasn't very sociable. I didn't have all that many. As a kid I had friends, but like when I was a teenager and a bit older, I didn't really hang out much. I didn't go out clubbing or anything. I didn't do much sport. You know, I was a bit of a loner, and I kind of started comedy in the hopes that it would take its place, and it was comedy and success in comedy that would make me happy. And to an extent it did, in that it gave me confidence. But it gave me confidence in the rest of my life, to be confident in front of people and to make friends and to have something approaching a satisfying personal life. But the success on its own doesn't make you happy.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I know just from what happened this year. You know, like you have to find it within or whatever.
All that bullshit.
Peace,
Yeah, you gotta. No, I mean, I'm not like saying that about you, but just
No. But yeah. Okay. Well, it's nice to hear that it's not going to get better. That's all right. That's good. That's good. You know, that means I can just I'm good now. I'm good now as it is.
I think it is comforting in the sense that, you know, if comedy doesn't give you the satisfaction you're hoping it would, it wasn't really supposed to, and you'll find that elsewhere. But it's still a great thing to do. It's a really fun thing to do, and it's a rewarding thing to do. And if you're good at it, it's a very valuable and worthwhile thing to do. So I don't really know what I'm trying to say.
That it's a worthwhile pursuit. But it might not fill the void.
Well, it's the stuff surrounding it, not the actual performing or like working on it. That's great.
But every profession, every work has bullshit surrounding it. No matter what you do, you have to deal with bullshit, because you're working with other people, and people bring bullshit to everything. Yeah. So no matter what you do, you have to deal with bullshit.
Yeah,
that's true.
As long as the thing in the middle of all that bullshit is worthwhile, then it's okay.
Well, you can't play chess alone. I'm just going to say that. So I still need a friend. I don't know how to play chess.
But you have some friends. And you know my friend
they're just
in London. Yeah. I told you my friend Andrew, who listens to the podcast.
I know, she's setting me up on a play date. She's setting me up on a play date.
Yeah, they would be such
nice.
good friends.
It is nice. But I'm like her. I'm like, don't you tell me who I'm going to enjoy.
I can't wait.
Oh, no, I mean, coming to London, a friend set me up with, a play date with a friend of hers, and it's good. It worked out.
It doesn't have to be a lasting friendship. It could just be an afternoon.
Play dates.
Plus, he listens to the podcast. I mean, you gotta, and he's gay. You don't even have to sleep with him. Do you know what I mean? It's not like
perfect.
Yeah,
you don't.
But I want to. So once, how's that gonna work?
Well, Phil, can I ask you now, what? And I guess we've kind of touched on it. But is there something that gets to you? Like, do you have your petty jealousies or your things that you can't let go the way that Katharyn and I have ours?
I'm jealous in the UK of people who've grown up, their comics who've grown up there and have this real grounding in British life, and they have like friends from when they were kids that they're still in touch with. They have a football team they go support with their dad. That kind of like real cultural grounding. I don't have, because I moved around, and I never really had that kind of life, and I feel that's the thing I get envious about. I think.
So the same thing I am.
Yeah.
Almost.
Like being an insider,
almost.
Basically. Being an insider from the beginning.
Yeah. But it's on this other side of the coin. I think I'm able to have a unique perspective on things because I've always been an outsider, and I've never been part of a community or a group, and so I'm always able to see things objectively. But the price of that is I never felt part of a greater thing.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question then is, do you have things that you envy in us, or that or compliments? You can just give us compliments, but either or.
In Eve, I think I envy the traveling you've done and how much of the world you've seen, and your varied life experience. Like, to be able to, you've traveled in the States, you've lived in Korea, you lived in Australia, the UK, and I think that's a real gift. I think that's really good, and to have the sort of sense of independence and autonomy to do all those things on your own. I think that's very enviable.
Thanks, Phil.
In Katharyn, it sounds kind of naff, but I really envy the place you're in right now with comedy. You know, you're in your apartment in London. You just got there. You're starting out. It's so exciting. You know, you got on a top secret. You're moving your way up the chain. Like, that's the most exciting. I think it was Harry Hill actually said the most fun he's ever had doing comedy is when you're starting out. People had no idea who he was, weren't expecting anything, and he'd just go on stage and he'd just blow people away. I mean, he didn't say that, but he would have gone out and just blown people away. And I love that period of starting out comedy when no one knows who you are, no one's expecting anything from you, and you go up and you're good, and people are like, wow, that's great. That's such an exciting part.
All right, I'll take that with me tonight. Thank you.
I'm envious of that.
Thank you. Thanks, Phil.
Phil, thank you so much for being here. You've been awesome. Do you want to plug anything? I know that you've got a book coming out.
Well, my book is coming out in September. It's called Side Splitter. It's about being mixed race. It's a series of essays about that life experience, but it's mainly meant to be funny. And you can pre-order it on Waterstones, and I think Amazon. And I have to sign them. They're signed copies, so I just have to go in one morning and have to.
Right.
So put me. Yeah, make you work. Put me under that
harder
physical labor.
Yes,
and order some books.
Because also you said that exercise really helps you, so this will be good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people can find you on Twitter at Phil Wang, right? Is that just
Phil N Wang? N for November. Phil N Wang.
Right, Phil N Wang. Phil November Wang, and then also on Instagram
at Wang Pics with an X.
Oh yeah, I follow you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought that I was going to see dick pics, but no, it's just you.
Disappointment.
You're surprised it was me. You're like, oh, it's Phil.
Yeah. And you can follow the podcast at Everyone's Doing Better on Instagram. You can follow Katharyn on Instagram at Eel Girl, you nasty. Me at Eve Elbow on Instagram and also TikTok. Sorry to brag, I have a TikTok, also Eve Elbow. Phil, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
Thank you for having me. It's
nice
been a
to
great
meet
chat.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, you too, Katharyn.
Enjoy my former city.
And enjoy my current one.
Yes. Take a shit in the street for me.
I already have.
Oh, perfect. Sign it. Okay.